Hey there, listeners. Welcome back to the show. This is, of course, the Scale My Ecom Store podcast, where we dive into the real stories behind successful brand transformations and really looking at these sorts of stories, strategies, situations, and challenges from all kinds of directions. And today, I'm actually going to be sharing something really personal and very exciting for me anyway, and that is the complete journey of how we have transformed a natural beauty brand and nearly doubled its revenue over the last 12 months. This isn't your typical success stories just filled with overnight wins, which of course is, the Instagram highlight reel that lots of people prefer to stick to. This is about rolling up your sleeves, making some really tough decisions, and systematically rebuilding a brand from the ground up whilst keeping your loyal customers happy. So, if you're a brand owner struggling with perhaps some growth bottlenecks or plateaus, maybe some pricing challenges or customer acquisition challenges, or with even, trying to gain a foothold in a competitive product category, if any of that is kind of where you're feeling right now, then this episode is going to give you a nice little roadmap. And we're talking, of course, about Indagare Natural Beauty, which is the brand that we acquired exactly 12 months ago. Well, we took over it 12 months ago. It has been an absolute whirlwind of a year. It's been quite a hell of a year, really. It's been a lot. If you are watching the video version of this episode, you might notice a little bit of a Pepe Le Pew white streak that I've got going on in my hair now, courtesy of taking on this massive challenge. I mean, surely it makes me look distinguished, though, right? Anyway, before we get into all of the juicy good stuff, I want to share a really awesome resource with you that my team and I have worked really hard to develop. And it's called our e-commerce diagnostic tool. And what it is a really intuitive, interactive tool, and it's designed to really quickly identify your growth bottlenecks, give you some personalized guidance on your next most important steps to improve your business results, and also includes a really cool revenue growth calculator. This is not just, your bog standard metrics that you might pop into an Excel spreadsheet. It's quite customizable. And what it's going to show you is exactly how much more money you can make when you fix the biggest issues that the diagnostic tool identifies for you and implement the right strategy. So it's really intuitive. It's really cool. I think you're going to love it. And of course, it's free, which is even better. So if you want to have a go, all you need to do is go to productpreneurmarketing.com/quiz. If you don't know how to spell productpreneur, it's like product plus entrepreneur together, for all of you creative, innovative brand founders. Or you can just head to our podcast show notes page and click the link. All right, let's dive in. And so to begin with, let me paint the picture of what we walked into. So Indagare Beauty was about 6 years old when we acquired it. It's a natural beauty brand with really incredible products. It's a pretty tight product range, but they're absolutely incredible products, most of which are multi-purpose. And I was actually a customer of this particular brand before we acquired the company, which I think is, probably one of the best validations that you can get as a potential buyer. So, I always thought that the products were amazing. They're really, really effective. And in looking under the hood of the business through the due diligence and negotiation process, I could see, and I wasn't surprised that the customer loyalty rate for the brand was through the roof, well above industry average, like more than double. But the business did have some serious challenges that were holding it back from its true potential. And one of those challenges was that the founder of the brand had two businesses, and uh, they were kind of polar opposites in terms of operations, and it was just too much, really. But challenges for us to take on was the first one really was that the brand hadn't invested in new customer acquisition for 18 months before we took over, which is a really long time. And so that meant that we had zero testing data, zero insights into what was going to be working for paid advertising. And essentially, we had to start from scratch with customer acquisition strategies. And the second challenge, in the 6 years of operation, there hadn't ever really been a comprehensive price review. And we fairly quickly discovered that some of the products were actually selling at break even or even at a loss. So, you know, bottom line is you can have the best products and the most loyal customers in the world, but if you're not making any money when you sell the products, you don't have a business, you have a charity. And that's not something that I was able to sustain. Um, just as a side note, though, and look, this episode isn't going to be about price psychology, but you know, if you sell your products too cheaply, then nobody's going to believe that they are really high quality. There is a bit of a correlation between price and quality in the minds of the consumer. So that is also something to consider. But here's what really did give me confidence in this acquisition. It was that customer retention rate. Because when customers love your product so much that they keep coming back despite no marketing efforts, despite potentially better priced competitors, you know that you've got something special. The foundation was solid. We just needed to build the right structure around it. So before we touched anything tactical, before we redesigned a single web page or launched a single ad, we had to get really, really clear on what we believed this brand really stood for and who it served. So the original positioning was good. It wasn't like there was anything wrong with it necessarily, but it wasn't really sharp enough. When you think about the product category of skincare and beauty products, you know, and the evolution that that kind of product category has gone through since before and through and after the COVID boom time, it's a pretty drastically different looking category. And, you know, you have to be really, really sharp and clear on your positioning on what are the unique benefits about the brand and the products, who are they for? You know, you really need to be sharp on this stuff. And it really wasn't differentiated enough to stand out in the crowded natural beauty market. So we had to really look at this and decided to slightly reposition the brand as a high performance, affordable, luxury, clean beauty brand for women who want to make a discerning choice. Women really over 40 who wanted to make a discerning choice for three specific reasons: health, effectiveness, and sustainability. And so the point of doing this wasn't just about, you know, marketing speak. This positioning for us would drive every single decision that we made therein, from product development to pricing to how we communicated with customers and more. So, and I want to highlight the discerning choice angle there because this was really crucial. Our ideal customer isn't somebody who just wants a, you know, clean beauty brand or even, you know, just any beauty brand. She's someone who has really done her research, who understands ingredients, who values transparency, is looking to certain places for credibility over those things, and who is willing to invest in products that align with her values, but they must also deliver really effective results. So that was kind of the first task that we undertook. We also made a massive shift in how we communicated. And transparency and education really did become our North Star. And I don't want to suggest that those things weren't important in the brand before, but really making them your North Star is a bit of an evolution there, right? And so instead of just talking about how great the products were, we started to explain why they work, what's in them, how they're made, and why we make the choices that we make as a brand. And again, it's not just about marketing copy. This philosophy has influenced everything, you know, our email campaigns, our social media content, our product descriptions, even our customer service approach. Everything has become about empowering our customers with knowledge so that they could make informed decisions. I mean, in actual fact, this kind of was part of the genesis of the brand. Probably most people wouldn't know this, but the word indagare is actually the Latin word for to investigate. So it really kind of, makes sense to go fully down that rabbit hole with that positioning. So once we had this kind of strategic brand foundation, we had to tackle the operational reality. And I have to be honest here, it has been pretty overwhelming, especially the first few months. We basically had to rebuild every single marketing channel simultaneously. Talk about, jumping off the deep, or jumping off a cliff and building the plane on the way down. Anyway, let's start with the website. So the original website was functional, but the user experience wasn't really fabulous, especially on mobile, and it definitely didn't reflect this new kind of positioning or communicate our values effectively. So we completely redesigned it with a real focus on that kind of education and transparency. Product pages became little mini masterclasses in the ingredients and benefits and showcased the transformations of real customers. We've added detailed FAQs, lots of information about ingredients, step by step, plus videos showing how to use the products and all of that kind of stuff. Then there was Klaviyo, our email marketing platform. Of course, long-time listeners know that's my favorite. The existing email flows, the basic ones were built out. I don't think they'd really been touched since the Klaviyo account had originally been set up years before. So there was a whole lot of newer functionality available in the Klaviyo account that hadn't been when the account was set up. But again, when looking at the emails in these flows, the user experience wasn't great. The information was good, but it was really, really wordy, not visually appealing, not particularly accessible, and definitely difficult to digest, especially when reading on mobile. So again, we rebuilt everything from the ground up here. Welcome sequences that would educate new subscribers about these really amazing botanical beauty products, abandoned cart sequences that addressed common concerns about our products. And, there are some really big perceived risks about buying skincare products online. As I'm sure you can imagine, you can't try them before you buy. There's a lot of competition. It's very easy for people to struggle, with making that decision about whether this product is going to be work. Is it going to do what the brand says? Is it going to be right for that particular customer's needs? All of this kind of stuff. And so, and then the post-purchase sequences as well, helping customers to get the most out of their products, as well as to, come back and try other things and to replenish what they've bought. So, this was a really huge rebuild, and I'll share a little bit about the results on this platform later. The content strategy was another massive undertaking. So we really did shift from sporadic posts that had been, kind of copy and paste, reiterated posts. They were pretty bland, not bad, just not super engaging. And, obviously on social media, it kind of really does need to spark a conversation and be a little bit engaging if it's going to work, right? So we moved towards having that really consistent educational content that positions us as leaders in the clean beauty space, and really started talking about the ingredient science, the sustainability practices, how to build an effective natural skincare routine. We've also started talking about things like real skin and beauty issues that our customers tell us about, and showcasing the incredible transformations that they've experienced with the products. So it's, showing, not telling, educating, and, taking customers along for the journey. And doing so, really helps potential customers to quickly grasp what's in it for them, which is, that's the question that every consumer has in their mind when they're making a new decision, a decision to buy something new. and also fosters a sense of community in within our social media audience, which again, super important and not easy, as any of you who are using social media as tools to promote your brand and build your business would have experienced, I'm sure. But here's where it gets really challenging. We had to do all of this while figuring out our advertising strategy from scratch. So remember, we had zero historical data to work with, and we had to test everything: audiences, creative angles, platforms, messaging, offers, the works. And so we started with Facebook and Instagram. We quickly realized we needed to do more than just that. We did start with Google Ads as well. And we tried diversifying initially to Pinterest and TikTok. And then we also added in the pay-per-click PR platform Linkbee, which if you're not on yet, you probably should give it a look-see. Each platform, of course, required different creative approaches and messaging strategies. In amongst all of that, also really working hard and doubling down on SEO, which has been such a moving feast over the last year, thanks to all of the new and regularly updated generative AI algorithms that have completely changed the traffic game. So this testing phase was pretty brutal, especially as it was largely happening during the most expensive time of the year to advertise online, which is the fourth quarter of the year. We probably had way more failed campaigns than successful ones in those first few months, which I anticipated. I mean, I've been in this game for a really long time, and I know that each failure, if you want to call it that, taught us something. You know, it's a learning experience about our audience and, about what resonated with them. And so while we were rebuilding all of our marketing infrastructure and doing all of this testing, we also had to address the product and pricing challenges. Oh, yay. The pricing issue I alluded to earlier, this was a particularly sensitive one because we knew that we had to increase prices on several products to make them profitable, but we didn't want to lose our loyal customer base in the process. And we knew that that was going to be a risk, right? But at the end of the day, it was a necessary risk that we had to take. So we approached it systematically. First, we conducted a thorough cost analysis of every product, every ingredient in every formulation, down to the milliliter to really understand the true margins. We, of course, researched competitor pricing as well, making sure that we are staying competitive within our affordable luxury positioning. But, at the end of the day, like, you don't just do what you think your competitors are doing. You have no idea whether they're profitable, right? So it's just a yardstick, I suppose, to assess where you're sitting in the marketplace. But then, importantly, we created a communication strategy to explain the price increases to our existing customers before they happened. And I think the key here is transparency. So, it's not about just raising prices and hoping that people wouldn't notice, which is not a very fair thing to do. So we sent communications to our regular customers explaining, first of all, our commitment to maintaining product quality, and in particular, because the products in the Indagare range do use the highest quality ingredients that you can get in the market. So we weren't going to cut quality to save cost. That was not the way that we wanted to go about it. So, really explaining about how we are maintaining the product quality and effectiveness, our investment in sustainable practices, and how the price adjustments would allow us to continue delivering the products that they loved. And thankfully, maybe surprisingly, maybe not, we lost far fewer customers than I was, I don't want to say expecting, but like I said, I knew it was going to be a risk, right? So I think that the transparency approach actually strengthens relationships with many of our existing customers because they felt respected and informed and consulted. And then so continuing on the product side of things here, on the product development side, we also identified two key opportunities that we could tap into fairly quickly and move on fairly quickly. And the first was a innovative cleanser, which I'm absolutely loving. It's a powder to foam cleanser or powder to lather. Some people like to refer to it as. So basically, it's like all the active ingredients in a cleanser without the water, and you just kind of mix it together and it lathers up, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And that's a very unique product in the skincare market against regular cleansers. And so we felt like, launching this would serve as a really great entry point for new customers as well as bringing existing customers back to try something new and add that to their regular skincare routine. Cleansers are often one of the first products that people try from a new brand. So we invested in creating this new product that would really wow our customers. And then, secondly, we introduced trial sizes across our product range. And I was convinced that this was going to be a crucial step for customer acquisition because, as I'm sure anyone who uses skincare products could logically figure out, skincare products and beauty products do require a leap of faith, particularly when sold online, where customers obviously can't try before they buy. People need to experience the products to believe in them, and having trial sizes lowered that barrier to entry because obviously they're cheaper and smaller. And so it makes it a lot easier for new customers to test multiple products without a really huge financial commitment or, committing to, completely changing to a new brand of skincare, right? Like it's like you're dipping your toe in before going all in. I would say, though, that the biggest challenge we faced wasn't actually acquiring new customers. It was making sure that we kept our existing ones happy whilst we went about making all of these necessary changes to the business, because we knew that we had to increase prices, update some of the packaging, completely overhaul the marketing approach. Plus, our warehouse moved. It was in the north of Australia and now it's in South Australia. So, order delivery timeframes inevitably changed. And there was, inevitably a learning curve for us, our team here, with customer service. And so any one of these changes could potentially alienate loyal customers who had loved the brand exactly as it was, even if through, just the sheer fact of making something that was once familiar into something that's initially less familiar. Like, when like supermarkets completely rearrange their aisles and you can't find the stuff you want anymore. My local supermarket is doing just that at the moment, and it's incredibly annoying. It takes me twice as long to get through. Anyway, our strategy, as you've probably picked up, was proactive communication, also asking our loyal customer base for their input first. That's a really important part of the way that I operate. And then gradual implementation. So instead of making all the changes at once, we've been rolling them out over several months and explaining things as we go and trying to share the reasoning behind our decisions. And to be honest, this is still an evolution in progress. I don't think growing a business or a brand is ever something that is done. There's always more to try, more to test, and more opportunities, right? But also through all of this period, we've doubled down on the customer service and creating things internally and publicly facing, like detailed FAQ documents and, really addressing concerns that customers might have, offering personal consultations and help for customers, even created some exclusive review previews and discounts for our long-term customers when launching new products, and a few other things as well. I think most importantly, we never ever compromised on the product quality. So customers, and look, I've had one of the reasons I love skincare products is because I've had some really difficult skin problems in the past. And so I know customers trust us with their skin. That's not a small thing. And so there's nothing, there's no way that I was going to break that trust for any kind of short-term potential gains. Ultimately, we've managed to retain about 85% of our existing customer base that came with the business, which in the beauty industry, especially during a period of significant change, is exceptional. So I'm really pleased with that. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about what the day-to-day reality of this sort of transformation looks like, because, I think this is where a lot of brand owners get stuck or give up. There's a lot going on, both logistically as well as strategically. And, I get why brand owners might get stuck or give up, because when you are going through a lot of testing and a lot of trying and a lot of change across every aspect of a business, or in any aspect of a business, inherent in that is the knowledge that a lot of what you try isn't going to work, and that can sting a bit like failure. So it's not surprising that people might give up through this kind of a process. And like at the end of the day, all of this kind of testing, it's not a glamorous process. It's doing things like launching new campaigns on a Monday, checking the performance on Wednesday, killing it if it wasn't working, starting over on Friday. It was creating multiple different subject lines for emails and offers for the same campaigns and seeing which one got opened or converted more. There's so much about testing, and we tested everything: ad creative, audience targeting, email timing, product bundle combinations, pricing strategies, website layouts, offers, channels, so much more. Some weeks we were running 5 different tests simultaneously across different channels. The key was having really clear success metrics for each test and being ruthless about just stopping things, killing things that didn't work. We just couldn't afford to let emotions or personal preferences drive decisions, which I see a lot. Personal preferences do drive a lot of decisions, whereas the way that we've approached things here has, everything had to be data driven. So, for example, we tested 2 completely different offer strategies: value add versus free shipping. The value add approach, where we bundled complementary products or included free gifts with purchase, performed 40% better than the free shipping offers. And even though free shipping can seem like the obvious choice for e-commerce, we also tested things like messaging across different platforms and different campaigns. And what worked on one platform didn't necessarily work on another. But here's what really surprised us about messaging: getting really specific with problem-based messaging as opposed to outcome-based messaging or price-based messaging outperformed anything else, including any kind of anti-aging benefits or even award-winning copy. Award-winning, can be seen like a credibility boosting type angle, right? So instead of talking about things like reducing fine lines or multiple award-winning, that sort of thing. Lots of beauty brands say these sorts of things. We started addressing really specific concerns like under eye dark circles or that patch of hyperpigmentation on your cheek that makeup just won't cover. And taking this much more targeted approach has cut through the noise in this crowded anti-aging skincare market where everyone seems to make the same broad claims. Now, obviously, the same messaging that works for us is not going to work for another brand necessarily, in the same category or a different product category. For us, this breakthrough only came around month 6 when we finally found our winning combination. And that, educational content first. So we're educating about ingredient benefits that are targeting very specific problems. User-generated content, so content from real customers with clear before and after demonstrations, and a few other things as well. But it really has taken hundreds of failed tests to get to this point. And I think one of the biggest lessons from this journey was, for me, the importance of not putting all your eggs in one basket. I mean, this is a lesson that I've learnt many times over the years, but I think that this whole process with Indagare really, really illustrates that in a way that hopefully you can all take without having to repeat the same issue yourself. Originally, our plan was to focus heavily on Facebook and Instagram first. They are the obvious choice for building brand awareness. And then we pivoted quickly when we realized how hard it is to get cut through at an affordable price in this kind of a competitive landscape. We haven't stopped marketing and advertising on Meta platforms or social media generally. Initially, Google was the add-on for that. But what has been a pleasing surprise was that the pay-per-click PR platform Linkbee became our most reliable channel for new customer acquisition, followed by our Meta ads for capturing high-intent customers who were already searching for clean beauty solutions. So, there's a really steep learning curve in here, but the quality of customers that we've acquired through these channels has been really exceptional. I will say that Google surprised us a little bit. We still run ads on Google. They do still convert. But we initially assumed it was going to be the strongest driver of sales. It was the only driver of traffic and sales that the brand had before we took it on. But it is also generally the strongest driver of traffic and sales for most of our e-commerce clients. But I think a combination of the constant changes on the Google platform over the last year, there's been all of these new generative AI algorithm updates that I've spoken about plenty on this podcast, amongst probably the fact that we discovered Linkbee as a great new customer acquisition and brand awareness platform. But it turned out that organic Google search traffic is outperforming paid on this platform. And I think that's probably down to our regular, consistent publishing of high quality content. And, who am I to argue? Free traffic is great. It's going to be better than paid traffic. Currently, TikTok and Pinterest are on the back burner. We aren't using them for paid channels right now. We have tested on there, but our audience does skew a little bit older. So I wasn't overly surprised that TikTok didn't explode out of the gate. And Pinterest is still pretty niche, I would say, as a traffic generator. We'll come back to them both down the track. But they're not the primary focus right now. In what was probably no surprise to me, or you, if you're a regular listener here, is that Klaviyo has been the biggest success in terms of increasing conversions and lifetime value. Most exciting to me is that revenue attributed to our automated flows is up more than 95% year on year, which is incredibly exciting. Our owned traffic channel should always be the most profitable that we have in a business, and that's certainly been the case here. I think the lesson here for you is that you have to be where your customers are, even if it is a little bit uncomfortable or unfamiliar. Each platform has required us to adapt our messaging and our creative approach, but that diversification ultimately has made our business more resilient. So what were the actual results of all this work? I know this episode is getting slightly long, but I'll just quickly go through these. So we have almost doubled revenue in 12 months, but that top line number doesn't tell the whole story, and it actually wasn't really the primary focus. Customer acquisition was the primary focus, and that is up over 165%. Next metric probably wasn't the primary focus, but it was a happy outcome. We've actually shipped orders to over 21 countries around the world, not over, to 21 countries around the world, which is up from 4 countries previous to that. We've set a new record of the highest number of orders in a day, up by 33%. More importantly, we have improved gross margins through strategic pricing adjustments and product mix optimization. We have increased our customer lifetime value through better marketing and retention strategies, email marketing mostly. Our cost of customer acquisition has come down significantly, really only once we found our winning creative and targeting combinations, certainly not in the first 6 months. But here's the metric that I'm most proud of. We've built a much more sustainable business. So instead of relying on a small group of loyal customers coming back and making repeat purchases, we now have a steady stream of new customers discovering the brand every month, balanced with those strong retention rates. And so the brand went from being dependent on a single marketing channel to having diversified revenue streams across platforms. It went from having no customer acquisition strategy to having systematic, scalable growth systems. So if you're a brand owner facing similar challenges, here are the key lessons that I think you should take from this journey. First, strategy before tactics. We could have jumped straight into running ads and redesigning websites, but without having clear positioning and done our market research to identify core messaging, we would have wasted way more time and many, many more thousands of dollars on ineffective campaigns. Second, embrace testing, but you have to be systematic about it. Test one variable at a time, set clear success criteria, and be prepared to kill off campaigns that aren't working. Emotional attachment to any creative ideas is just going to kill your budget. Third, I believe transparency builds trust, and authenticity and your brand's reputation are going to be the most valuable currencies moving forwards in this AI-generated business environment that we are operating in now. So when we had to make difficult changes like price increases, honesty and clear communication really has strengthened our customer relationships rather than damaging them. Fourth, I would say that diversification is crucial. So diversification of platforms, products, creative, things like platform policies change, algorithms shift, costs fluctuate. So having multiple customer acquisition channels helps protect your business from those external disruptions. Fifth, don't neglect your existing customers while chasing new ones. Your current customers should always be your most valuable asset. So you want to protect that. You want to keep them happy. You want to build relationships with them so that they go on to become advocates who help you acquire new customers down the track. And finally, product quality and customer service are non-negotiable. All the marketing in the world will never fix a mediocre product or a poor customer experience. Now, speaking of identifying all these growth bottlenecks, I want to just reiterate about this amazing, valuable free tool that we have for you to help you diagnose what might be holding your brand back. So that is, of course, our e-commerce diagnostic tool. And, it is a interactive tool. It is free. It's based on the same framework that we use with all our clients and, of course, with our own brands like Indagare Beauty. So the diagnostic tool is going to look at all areas of your marketing and advertising and takes about, less than 10 minutes to complete. You'll get a personalized report with specific recommendations for your business. And it's also going to help you work out how much more money that you can make in your business once you overcome those bottlenecks and implement the strategies suggested in the quiz. So you can access it by going to productpreneurmarketing.com/quiz, or of course, head to the podcast show notes for this episode and click on the link. Transforming Indagare Beauty has been one of the most challenging things I've done in a very, very long time, but it's also been one of the most rewarding projects that I've undertaken. And I cannot wait for the next year and what we have on the horizon for this beautiful brand. But that is the episode this week. I hope you've enjoyed this one. If you loved it, share it with a business bestie who you think might value the information that I've shared today. Otherwise, I hope you have an amazing week and I look forward to being in your ears again next week. Bye for now.